What's up, boys and girls? I hope you had a great weekend. So here it is. We got Monday. What kind of MMORPG news can I deliver to you? Well, not a whole lot, but something that I'm excited about, and that's the EverQuest 2 PVP server that's launching in April. Now, there's like a million things that you can complain about and say. If you have like 1,000 reasons why not to join the server, then you can probably just exit the building now because I could just sit here and give you 1,000 reasons myself. But I want to talk about the 1,000 reasons why we should play and then go over the rule sets and the current basically setup for this PvP server that's coming. I should mention that if you want to play on this server, this player versus player EverQuest 2 server, it's going to be a time locked event server. So it's basically like playing the game from start back in the day in like 2004 when it launched, which is pretty exciting. You will have to pay for a sub to play on those servers, so that's just a heads up. Like, you could technically just pay for a sub for like 1 or 2 months and then just leave. I mean, that's what most people do. I'm not gonna lie. On the player versus player servers, usually it's like, maybe a 90-day period where it's exciting, but then EverQuest 2 will come in and launch another server, and then people will go over to that server. People kind of move with the new servers on this game. So, anyways, that's why the next server that's coming up that they're launching, it's a player versus player server. That's what we're talking about today. So yeah, it's kind of cool. Player versus player in EverQuest 2 is definitely the most hardcore player versus player of any AAA MMO, with its type of lore that large of a world. EverQuest 2 is by far the most hardcore. We're going to talk about why right now and get right into the rule sets and start discussing some of the things about player versus player servers and what it means to play on them. So first of all, we're going to talk about protection from PvP. Like basically how you can play on this server without having to play player versus player. There is none. That doesn't exist on a server like this. You get to level up to level 10 in EverQuest 2 on a player versus player server without being flagged. Nobody's flagged under 10. Soon as you hit 10, you're flagged and it's game on. And you can get killed by anybody. It doesn't like discriminate against level. If they're high enough level, they're not going to get any points from killing you or rank up, but they can just grief you and just kill you if they feel like it, and there's nothing you're going to be able to do about it. So that's the type of game we're talking about, guys. As soon as you get out of like the little kiddie hub zone and you go into the main world, which is going to be Antonica or the Common Lands, it's going to be a free-for-all. That's why scout classes are obviously the most popular on servers like this, because in EverQuest 2, sneak actually is basically permanent when you use it. It lasts for 12 hours unless it's canceled or unless you lose it from some other reason. Anyways, back to the protection from player versus player, because we'll get into that in a little bit. As soon as you change zones in EverQuest 2, you're going to get 60 seconds of immunity. And that is immunity from other players and also you being immune to being able to attack. And after the 60 seconds expires, again, it's game on. Whether you choose to use those 60 seconds to hop on your mount and try to beat it, or you're a scout and you're just trying to, use that time to get away from the beginning of the zone, that one place where people are zoning in, because EverQuest 2 doesn't have a whole lot of zoning. It does off of the zone, but the zones are very, very big. Anyways, if you're engaged in player versus player combat, you won't be able to zone, no matter what. So if you engage in a fight, you can't leave, and if you got attacked, you can't escape if you are engaged in player versus player by zoning. You'll just bounce off of it. So that's basically, in a nutshell, protection, and there isn't a whole lot, like I said. Depending on which basically faction you choose, and that's going to be evil, good, and neutral. That's going to play a large part on who you are kill on sight to, which NPCs you can use for menders, vendors, all that stuff. So if you pick good, not only will the good players kill you, you'll be kill on sight to the NPCs. So there you go. And language in EverQuest 2. You can't understand what someone else is saying unless you know the language that they're speaking. Regardless, in this game, even if you know the language of the other faction, you still can't communicate with them. Combat in general, there's a lot of stuff that it's going to go over. I'm going to give you guys a link to actually go over all this stuff in general if you really want to. We're not going to go over every single thing because there's just a lot to take in here. But I figured if you are interested in a, hardcore player versus player experience in one of the best worlds ever created for MMORPGs, why not give it a shot? And this would just be an introduction to some of the mechanics and other things like that. So, like items, it's kind of like World of Warcraft, where the items and like spells and stuff like that, they're adjusted for player versus player. So, if you're killing like an NPC mob in the zone, your abilities and whatnot are going to do a bit more damage than they would against a regular player. Threat abilities like taunt and whatnot, they basically de-target for you, which is kind of weird, I know. Other things like it says here, like flanking stuff, that stuff will still work. CC abilities like snare, root, stun, fair, charm, stifle, mez, daze, those will cause an immunity for twice the duration of that the effect had on the player. So, if your snare lasted for 8 seconds, the player's going to be immune for 16. I mean, that's pretty brutal for the player if you think about it. And it is. And CC is brutal in EverQuest 2, and that's why scouts are popular, because you can kind of get in and out without getting CC'd and roasted. And brawlers have a lot of stuns and whatnot, and they can be hard to deal with. Bruisers, you'll see what's up. If you're interested, all I can suggest is go in and play the game for a little bit, try to figure out if you like it at all, the way that the combat works in general. You should be familiar with the UI and the questing and all that stuff. It's very similar to other MMORPGs, but it is a little bit different, and the world is definitely unique, and Norath is just a very beautiful experience. So anyways, it says here, if you're stealthy and you're invis, you can be seen by opposing characters within 20 meters. And that's pretty close if you think about it. If you stealth or you feign death or you go invis, invisible is another thing. Casters get invis, monks can turn invisible, monks also get feign death. But anyways, feign death is when you basically appear to be dead to an NPC. It works on players too, but only in the sense that it detargets for you. Some other things. So if you see another player in battle and you buff them or heal them, you're now in that PvP fight as far as EverQuest 2 is concerned. So when you walk backwards on a regular server, it's the same speed as going forwards, which is kind of makes it easy to kite in EverQuest 2. But on a player versus player server, walking backwards is slower. So that's kind of a big deal. The heroic opportunities, which are basically like the group combinations and combos that you can even start by yourself. But yeah, those are not usable in player versus player. Yeah, so obviously you can't join a group or a raid that's in a player versus player battle until it's done. You can't use pickpocket from rogues. Honorable kills, the target that you're getting an honorable kill from, a player, it has to have more than 50% health when you initiate that, or you will not get an honorable kill. And by the way, honorable kills are good. Dishonorable kills, obviously bad, but dishonorable kills are when your target has less than 20% health. That can that's going to mean that you're going to lose faction with your own city if you start doing dishonorable kills. And neutral kills are any health greater than 20%, it's considered a neutral kill on the player. That's obviously between 20 and 50 is neutral because 50 plus gives you an honorable. So yeah, and then if you get a neutral kill, nothing happens, and an honorable kill increases your faction. Um, a couple of more things. On that note, like I said, you're going to want to go back to the link that I give you if you're interested in this, because I'm kind of going through some things fast and then touching on them as we go, things that I find may be important. There's a thing called a kill list that basically like helps players that are potentially getting farmed by other players. It's designed to stop that. So if someone's on your kill list, basically you're going to get less experience when you kill them, okay? To the point where you'll get none. And that's going to last 30 minutes at a time. So it'll get to the point where you just don't want to grief the guy because unless you're just really messed up in the head and that's all you want to do. But yeah, and mentoring, like it says, you can't engage in player versus player if you do mentoring. It's just not the way that it works. So considering other players. So it's the same thing as NPCs: red, white, yellow, orange, green, blue. All those colors are going to make a difference. That's going to tell you the level they are, in regards to the level that you are. If a player is in your PvP range and in a group with a person that's too high to attack you, and you attack that person, that now lets that person that's grouped with them that's too high attack you. So you want to know who's in the group that you're attacking, basically. And that can be tough in this game because you can attack like two or three players, or even you can attack a guy that you think is single or a girl. And meanwhile, they've got like two scouts invised like right like next to you or whatever. Their group is right around the way. So yeah, you want to be a little bit cautious playing. Scouts, like I said, can kind of dip in and out, which kind of gives them an advantage in that moment because they can kind of kill that player and then get away before the group even reacts. Anyways, depending on the level you are, is going to be the level of player versus player that's going to give players the ability to kill you right there. Um, so it looks like you're going to actually have some defense against getting ganked in some zones. Newbie areas, it says a 4 level range. And guys, I don't know if that means that 4 levels gives XP and that you can get ganked by anybody, because that's how it used to be. But this is what it says. So Antonica in Common Lands is currently a 10 level range. I mean, that's brutal. That means that because it starts at 10, you can have level 20s in there farming, and it's okay, and they're getting rewarded for it. Thundering Steppes, Nectulos Forest, 8 levels. Zek, Enchanted Lands, 8. Rivervale, Fear Rot, Lava Storm, and Everfrost, 8. DOF is Desert of Flames, and then those are all expansion zones. So you don't even really need to worry about that because it literally isn't even going to go past Desert of Flames before the server dies. I don't even know why they give all this. There's literally like 5 players by the time, like, the later like, they're just not important anymore. So anyways, that's the deal. You kind of got an idea there. When you're level 10, you're going to be getting ganked by level 20s. When you're level 20, you can be ganking level 10s. Or everyone can play cool and you only kill people around your level and go have a nice day, but it's going to be a hardcore player versus player server, so ganking is going to be like pretty commonplace. So there's a thing called carnage flagging in EverQuest 2, and that's like a player goes into the opposing faction's city, and if they do so and they stay there for like, I don't know, I think if I remember it was like 5 minutes, they get flagged as a carnage flag. And what that means is basically anybody can attack them. Um And that's that. This gets into some more stuff as far as if you bring a raid in there or if you grouped up, what it's going to con to you, just so you know. So, and here's something important to realize conning. So, let's say that you have a single player that you see in the city and they're from the opposing faction and they're flagged and you target them and you see like three arrows up, that means that that player is in a large raid group. Like if you don't see any arrows up or down, that means that the player's by themselves. If the player has like a heroic symbol, like and the two arrows, that means that they're grouped up. So without seeing their group, if you know what the nameplates should look like, you can identify if the player is or not in a group and how big their group is. And guys, I highly recommend that you learn what those icons are or whatever, just so you got an idea. It's just arrows up and down. It's super simple. So then there's going to be fame, infamy, notoriety. It's like the title system basically in EverQuest 2. This is why people play EverQuest 2 player versus player, because the title system is awesome. Basically, in a nutshell, when you kill another player, depending on how many players they've killed and what their rank is, you're going to get a reward and it's going to have to do with your title. You can literally kill a high level player and just take like a super high level depending on where you're at before you killed them and where they were at before you killed them. Like how high your level was before. And like if you're killing a warlord and you're a freaking slayer, then you're gonna go right up to, one of the highest titles. So anyways, infamy is earned by killing players of the opposing faction. And it has to be an honorable kill, like I was explaining before. The titles in exact order are you won't have any title, you'll be a hunter, and if you die, you like lose your title. So this is like wicked hard. It's not easy. The best way to do it, and I shouldn't really say it, but the best way to do this is kind of just use a scout and just play super, super, super defensive. I mean, that's all I'm going to say about that. And Hunter, Slayer, Destroyer, then Champion, Dreadnought, General, Master, Overseer, Overlord, Warlord. So, you'll see multiple overlords, overseers. You'll see quite a few of this and that. Once you start seeing like champions and dreadnoughts, then these are players that have quite a few kills. And that usually doesn't take that long on the server, but yeah, it takes a little while. One of the other things is your status and your experience. So killing enemies, the honorable kills, you're going to get status points. And once you get the status points, it says right here, you can get only up to 5,000 status points for a single player while you're killing them. So you can't just basically farm a guy for status points. And enemies also will reward you with experience. So it says you can convert that into AA experience. And I don't know if you really know about EverQuest 2, but just so you know, they have experience and alternate experience. The AA experience, it's for alternate advancement. When you get those points, it's basically like a tree, like your talent tree that you put points in. But you start getting them early on and you get quite a few of them. This is just saying that this experience gain can't be turned off from killing enemies because on regular servers, you can actually turn your experience off. And the reason that you do that is so that you can do old content without losing the ability for them to give. You got to kill a mob that actually is within your level range to get credit for certain things and to have them drop actual loot. And when you kill a player, the player is going to drop 60% of his loot every time. So, that's you dropping 60% of your loot, and that's you getting 60% of the loot from every guy that you kill, every girl that you kill. The coin that you have in your bank never gets affected. So really, once you like score when you're out in the world, whatever zone you're in, you want to just get back to the bank. Once you get back to the bank, you deposit all your loot and then you go back out PvPing. You don't want to get smoked over and over again. It says right here that there have been accounts of people losing 80% of their plat to PvP. And that means on their account. So I wouldn't get crazy. You know what I mean? Like, make sure that you keep your stuff in the bank. And items, if you don't have if the item isn't attuned or it's no trade and it's less than handcrafted, meaning handcrafted, treasured, or uncommon or common, then that can drop and that'll go to the player that killed you. If your items are no trade, you already attuned them, and they are and or legendary, mastercrafted, fabled, or mythical, they can't be looted by another player. So, that's just one of those things. If you've got extra loot, get to the bank if it's something wicked, nice, and important, or equip it immediately as soon as you get it. PvP writs are basically like quests for PvPing. You can get these. World of Warcraft, a couple of games have them. Like, go kill 6 players of the enemy faction. Okay. Once you get these, you'll get these things called Discord tokens and some, status points, some PvP faction. You can use that stuff to buy PvP gear. And you can look up the vendor. There's a PvP equipment vendor, and it's basically kind of like World of Warcraft, and this was done 20 years ago. Because this system that we're talking about is like the original system that we used back in the day. Some of them are different and some of them are added on, but like 90% of this is fundamental. So the Discord tokens you can use for really high level stuff. Basically, that's not really important because I don't really think anybody's going to be getting that high anytime soon. They will, but they'll be playing like by themselves or with like 5 other players in like 5 zones wide. And you can track in this game. Half elves, Kara, and halflings get tracking for racials. And just so you know, and so they can track. I think on a player versus player, they can still track too, the racial tracking, but all scouts get tracking. That includes the Beast Lord. So, I mean, you can basically go stealth and then just track anyone you want, including named NPCs. So back to one last thing. Actually, there's a couple things left, but if you go into cities, the guards no longer just banish you if you go up to a city that's the opposing faction. Instead, they're just going to kill on sight. There's more guards than usual than on a PvE server in certain spots and hubs, just so that like people aren't getting ganked constantly, and it makes it hard for other players to farm NPCs of your faction that are quest givers and whatnot. Some things to note is that you're going to see scouts like rangers, and it doesn't say it, but dirges are going to be very, very popular. Shadow Knights are super popular because they have death touch and a lot of basically life tap abilities. So, it says here, turning off combat experience is more common as players wish to remain a low level tier. So you can level lock early, guys, but the point is when you kill a player, it's still going to give you that experience no matter what. So you can level lock so you don't get, whatever, but you're going to still get XP from player kills, so it's going to force you out of that bracket slowly. And then it says it may be a good idea to group even if you're doing easy quests or killing easy mobs because, it's player versus player. So I'm going to wrap this episode. It's only 25 minutes. That's basically a podcast style. I don't know if you guys enjoyed it. Might have talked a little bit too much. There was a lot of information to go over. I'm just happy to go over it with you because I hope I can get more players to play EverQuest 2. It's currently free to play, so you can download it. The game doesn't really take long to download. It's playable upon just installing it, basically, because it gives you the ability to play once it's only got about 1% of the game installed behind it, and then it preloads, the zones as you're going in. But what I would suggest is go in there, use the character creator, check it out. It's really good for what it was for its time. There's an alternate models button that you can click, and it changes the way that all of the character models look. I suggest using that because and that was original feature, like launch, like pretty close to launch. I think it came out in 2006. So, anyways, get in there, make a player, see if you like it. If you don't, well, that's fine. There's plenty of other games that we're all playing right now, but this one's got that new PvP server coming up. And if I can get some more players involved and interested, that would be kind of fun. One thing I would like to say, and I normally don't do this, but I'd like you to leave a comment if you could in the comment section and let me know if you're interested in playing player versus player on this EverQuest server. Maybe we could get some players together just so maybe we could get some more action on that server. Sounds like fun. Remember, like, there's dungeons are shared in EverQuest too. The world is. So you're competing for monsters and quest mobs and yada, yada, yada. It's a very thrilling, exhilarating experience if you know that kind of experience. This is definitely not for somebody that's never played, an MMORPG or player versus player before. This is for somebody that has quite a bit of time under their belt and wants a new experience or wants to go back and feel something like they felt before. Because I played on the old EverQuest servers, that was the best time in gaming. So, anyways, until it was broken, and that didn't last long. And then it was just the whole entire thing died, not just player versus player. So it was just tragic. But it is fun to be able to go back and do it again. And I'm not sure how many players will play. By my calculations, there's about 6,000 daily players on EQ2, 90% of those being on the paid servers. So, and those servers are spread out among, I think it's like 5 servers now. So, do the math. There's not that many players. So maybe we could get a little army going in there and have some fucking fun. I love destroying each other in player versus player. It's fun as hell. And yeah, there's nothing else to say about it. If you're interested, you are. And if you aren't, you aren't. Talk to you guys later. Have a good one.